Hi everyone, Chris Murray, owner of Elevation Wheel Company here. Today I want to talk about how I started my shop with about $1,000 and no money in savings. Now I know this sounds very clickbaity, but it is definitely possible. You just have to be very creative, be very willing to work, and be okay with a fair bit of anxiety along the way, especially in the earlier years. So it is doable, just be real with what it's going to take. First thing that helped me out quite a bit, since I did this with no savings, I made sure to keep my first job. I had a part-time job working at the Olympic Training Center Velodrome, so that was really what fed me and kept my bills paid while I was trying to get the bike shop growing. So made for some long days, but it meant I was able to still pursue this and still not have to worry about paying my bills, because this probably won't make enough money to feed you for the first year or so. Maybe longer, maybe shorter, just depends on your market and how well you do this. If you can work in a job that's a similar industry to the bike industry, that's always ideal because you can make a lot of good contacts. But know that if you're going to go that route, you want to talk it over with any, especially if it's a very competing business. Like, you want to talk it over with your bike shop manager or the bike shop owner. Let them know what you're going to do, because you don't want to burn that bridge. Because as you'll find out, this industry's small. Word gets around if you screw somebody over. And also, you probably will end up needing to use all your contacts you've got in the bike industry later to find wholesale parts. As a small shop starting with nothing, sometimes finding a wholesale distributor is really difficult. So having a good relationship with a previous shop where they'll let you buy parts at wholesale or cost plus 10 is usually really, really beneficial. So make sure not to burn that bridge. Plus, it's just not a nice thing to do. So first off, I want to make note, this is entirely for a service-focused bike shop. If you're thinking a big retail pretty shop, that's not going to happen without a big budget. Retail in general is getting really difficult to make work in the bike industry. It is doable, but typically you need six figures to do it well. Since we're trying to do this on about $1,000, you need to keep realistic expectations and keep your expenses as low as you possibly can. When I first started this, I did some mobile service out of the back of my personal car, and I also was working out of the garage for bigger projects and wheel builds. I just kind of, anything somebody was willing to pay me to do bike related and it made sense, I would do it basically. So I'd do pickup and delivery. I'd go do service on the spot at somebody's house, especially for families with multiple bikes. That worked really well for both of us. Wheels and more in-depth service I tended to do in my garage at home. So you'll want to have realistic expectations on how your shop's going to look in the early years, and hopefully you'll be able to grow it into either brick and mortar or something with a dedicated sprinter style van if you are doing well with the mobile stuff. But yeah, just some basic tools, a portable stand, some basic selection of tools and parts like chains, a couple chains, couple cables, brake pads. Super bare bones, doesn't take a lot of money to get started. Most bike mechanics already have these things. You can do a lot with just that, so don't think you need a big budget to get this started. It'll just be a little trickier at first. First thing you want to do is make your business legal. Get all necessary business licenses, get insured. If you don't have those things, you'll never get a wholesale account. It's hard enough to get wholesale accounts even with those things. Even with a decade of industry experience, I still struggle to get some accounts. So make sure you're legal, make sure you're insured. Insurance is a tough one. There's not a lot of companies that will let you do monthly, and a yearly premium can be really expensive. I ended up finding Hiscox Insurance, and they let you do a monthly fee. It's really cheap. It got me what I needed for all of my accounts to be satisfied. Fair warning, I've never had to file a claim, so I don't know how good their coverage is. I know some companies are more of a pain than others with that, but we're not going to expect the best at the beginning. We've got to have realistic expectations with our budget. So that let me get away with like a small monthly premium rather than a big chunk at the beginning of the year. So it was really, really helpful for cash flow. Bad cash flow will sink any business, and we're doing this with a tiny budget. So you need to be very, very careful about what you're doing and where you spend your money. One thing you can do while you're trying to get your account set up, if you need to use previous shops to get you parts at cost, you need to make it worth it to them. You can't just take. Nobody likes that guy. So make sure you're able to give something back to the people you're working with. A lot of the previous shops I worked with, I would do wheel builds for them at either a steep discount or free, depending on what they've done for me. I'd offer to help them with some of their service if they were backed up. You definitely need to get creative. You can check out some online retailers, and a lot of times you can buy some parts at wholesale at consumer-focused sites. Especially Shimano, you can buy a lot of parts at or below wholesale on consumer retail sites. So another reason focusing on retail in the bike industry is really difficult right now. So take that into consideration, but just be willing to get creative when you're trying to get this thing started. When you don't have a lot of money, creativity will be very, very helpful to you. So now that you've got your business set up, you need to focus on marketing it and letting people know it exists. So you'll want to build a website. They're really expensive if you pay somebody to do it, but there's a lot of template sites that actually work really, really well and aren't hard to do and figure out yourself. I'm not a computer guy, and I was able to figure it out, so I'm sure you can get it going. Just make sure your website looks like it's something from this decade. I know a lot of bike shops are bad about that, but update your website frequently. Try to make it look as good as you can. I used Weebly for mine. I think I pay $35 a month. So it doesn't have to be very expensive, but it'll give you a huge return, and it'll make you look a lot more professional, especially if you're having to start by working out of your garage or out of the back of your car. So set up your website and then move on to setting up social media. There's a bunch of different platforms, and you'll have to figure out which ones your customer base spends the most time on. I've probably had the best luck with Facebook and Instagram, but Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, if you're shooting for younger crowds, all of those are good to explore, and they're all free to set up. So you might as well set up an account on every single one. Just post frequently and see where you get the most return. And once you figure out where your people are, just focus the most of your efforts towards that. Big thing with social media, you want to be interactive, you want to talk to your people, you want to comment, you want to like on other people's stuff. Don't just put out content and expect praise in return. Actually give something back. So likes, spread joy, make people excited about what you're doing, what they're doing. Even throw out some occasional how-tos, stuff to help them get the most out of their riding. So always try to be giving back to your customer, and you always want to be trying to add value to their life. So any little thing you can do, even if it's just like a thumbs up on a picture, a lot of people get really excited about that. And that'll help grow your social media following, and it'll let the algorithms kind of put you up the list when it comes to showing your pages to people, because social media sites want to see a lot of interaction. One other thing that will help a lot with marketing your business and setting yourself apart from others is I've had really good luck picking a specialty. I think becoming an expert on something can go a long ways towards getting people to come to you for service. A lot of my customers came to me specific for wheel building, and then I did a good job taking care of them, making them happy, and then they just continued to use me for other service rather than the shop they formerly used. So picking a specialty is a good way to pull people away from other shops and build a pretty loyal customer. Most people are really excited when you can come through for them on weird or obscure stuff. So specializing in something like fit, suspension, wheels, whatever it may be, is a really good way to draw new business away from people that aren't really even looking for a different shop. Because a lot of people are pretty happy with the shops they've got, so you've got to have something special to pull them away. So pick a specialty. Main thing, if you're going to bill yourself as an expert on it, actually be an expert. Don't just be spreading bull and say you're a wheel builder. Don't build wheels that don't hold up. Make sure you know what you're doing. There's enough resources on the internet that you should be able to figure out how to be a specialist in pretty much anything you want to do, as long as you're willing to put in the time and effort to learn it. As far as marketing and social media and website stuff goes, if you go the mobile route, Square has a fantastic scheduling app. So you can go on there and it'll let customers book time slots with you and set time and date ranges that you approve. Totally free. It works really, really well. Square also is a good way to do credit card processing on the road. It's priced reasonably with the rest of the market. It's super easy, super quick. They deposit your money instantly if you want them to, so it helps with cash flow if you're in a tight spot. But I'll put a link below on that. Definitely sign up for Square if you're going to be doing mobile or anything appointment based. And even consider them if you just are looking for an easy credit card processor, because you can use just your cell phone and they'll send you a free reader typically. So check out Square. That'll help with getting that set up at a pretty minimal cost. You don't have to buy expensive credit card processing equipment. Another thing that'll give you really big returns in trying to start your own shop is get involved with the community as much as you can. Not only does it show that you actually care about your industry and the people in it, but it's a really good way to get your name out and kind of create organic growth. Because when people are interacting with you, if you give them a good experience, they're going to want to tell their friends, oh, this person was great. They took care of this issue nobody else did, or they helped me out in this tight spot, or whatever it may be. So teach maintenance classes. That's a really good way to instantly make yourself become an expert on a subject. And more often than not, you just teach people that they don't want to do your job. So teach maintenance classes, work with different riding groups, trail groups. I have a really good relationship with Trails and Tap Room. I started off doing a maintenance class there. I set up and did some service on the spot there because they have a really big mountain bike following. So I'd fix bikes at their bar. And then it led to sponsoring the team, which led to a bunch more sales in the future. So that was a really good one. Plus, those guys are just awesome to work with. So do what you can to get involved with the community. And then also if somebody's helping you out, like Trails End, try to give back to them as well. Like I give all of their team members a discount, and I try to send as many people to their bar as I can, because we want to help each other out. Especially when you're working with other small business owners, they tend to be very open to you help me, I help you. So back to that whole, you want to add value to anybody you're working with. So help them out where you can. They'll want to help you more often than not. And just be a good advocate for the sport. Once you're up and running, since our biggest concern is going to be cash flow for quite a while, you want to be very, very cautious of every dollar you spend. I always made it a point to think of every dollar as I wouldn't spend $1 unless I knew I could get a return on it, especially in the early days. Once things become a little more stable, you can relax a little bit, but you always want to be very aware of that. So get creative again. If you need to use an expensive cutting tool, see if a shop will let you borrow in exchange for you helping them out with something rather than spending $300 on a tool. If you're looking at buying new tools, you don't need super nice Abbey tools at the beginning. Don't buy their $140 chain tool at the beginning. Buy the $20 Park that does the same job. Those really nice tools are more of a luxury than a necessity. So save those for once you get a little bit more established, unless you just happen to have a bunch of money. But chances are, if you're watching this video, you don't. So be very aware of each dollar you spend. If there's a cheaper way to do the same job, do it. Don't get sucked into just wanting to do something because it's fun and cool. You'll blow a lot of money, and you usually won't get a lot of return on that. But you can get really creative. Like when I needed to set up my BTI account, I needed a dedicated work vehicle. So to do that, I had to show that my vehicle had permanent branding, but I couldn't afford a vinyl wrap. So I got a buddy to make me just a big vinyl decal for the back window. Cost me $30 some rather than $2,000. And it still got the same job done. It didn't look as pretty, but I saved a significant amount of money. And that's what this game is about. When we're trying to do the whole no budget entrepreneur thing, you've got to be very, very cautious with each dollar, especially when you're getting started, especially for those first 2 or 3 years. So get creative on ways to save money and stretch your dollar the best you can. On your personal life, expect sacrifice. You're not going to be able to go out every night or every weekend. You're not going to be able to go on vacations if you're doing this without much money. Just look at it as investing in your future, and something that if you do it right, you'll get a really good return on, both financially and just not having to work for other people. It's definitely very satisfying to be able to do your own thing, not have to answer to anybody other than your customers, and just do things the way you see is best. It's definitely worth the sacrifice, no doubt. All right, once your business is starting to do well, it's got steady income, you kind of know where you're at, you can start looking at expanding it. You'll always want to be investing what you can back into growing it. Because if you're starting the super bare bones, you're going to eventually want to go past that if this is going to be your full-time job. So when you go to expand, there's a couple different routes you can go. You can either try to go the standard brick and mortar route, or you can go the mobile route. I think there's a lot of validity to the mobile idea. Just don't look at the franchises. They're a horrible idea. But you can look at getting into like a Sprinter style van, like a Ford Transit or Dodge ProMaster. They're a lot cheaper than actual Sprinter vans. Build those out. Those are nice because overhead on those is typically a lot less than what a brick and mortar space will be. And it still gives you a lot of flexibility to help your customers out. Most customers are looking to do everything they can to save time. Everyone's too rushed these days. So anything you can do to help your customers out and save them time is usually a very good thing. So being able to go to your customer's home or their job and fix their bike while they're able to keep working, a lot of people love that. Then some families, when they've got 4 or 5 bikes in the garage, they just don't want to have to cart all of those into a bike shop. People that ride all the time don't want to leave their bike at a shop for a couple weeks, like a lot of shops get backed up. So there's a lot of benefits to going the mobile route beyond just a low overhead. So give that some serious thought. Thankfully, distributors are becoming more open to mobile businesses as well. You'll still get some pushback, expect that, but most of them, if you can show you're a legit business and you're doing it professional, most of them will be willing to either work with you or at least have the conversation and tell you what you need to do to get there. If you're looking to move into more of a traditional brick and mortar, which is what I ultimately did, you can do some things to make the cost quite a bit less. I got really lucky and partnered with Andy Sparks of Performance United. We actually share shop space. So he runs his coaching business. I run my bike shop, all out of the same space. So it brings down expenses quite a bit. And an added bonus is being an entrepreneur is a very lonely path. You're typically working by yourself with people that don't quite understand why you're doing what you do. So having somebody that kind of shares the same mindset is really helpful mentally. So not only so partnering with somebody saves you expenses, gives you a good moral boost, and it also works well if you compare with somebody that has similar coaching or similar business but not directly competing with you. So that way you guys can play off of each other's strengths. Like my customers have become his, some of his has become mine, and it just kind of helps all of us grow together. And I think that makes things a whole lot better. And yeah, it's more fun, it's cheaper, and it benefits the business quite a bit. So there's a lot of benefit to getting creative with that rather than just going and picking out a commercial space and dropping a ton of money on it monthly, because I've seen that sink a number of bike shops. So be careful about how you do that. Try to keep your costs as low as you can. If you can share those expenses with somebody, that works even better. For a bike shop, coaches are really good. I've got another coach, Daniel Matheny, that just recently rented space from us, so that helps kind of bring everyone's costs down. Find a good fit guy in town. Find somebody that's got a similar style business and kind of help each other out. Again, it'll benefit everybody. Another thing you want to do is be willing to embrace changes in the bike industry. The industry's changing rapidly, and the shops that are refusing to adjust are the ones that are going out of business quickly. So you don't want to be that guy that's hating on e-bikes. Don't complain if somebody brings you mail order parts to install or a mail order bike to build. Happily take their money for building it, servicing it, installing it, whatever it may be, and use it as an opportunity to build another customer that's ultimately going to need more service and parts down the road. Once you get that really good personal relationship with your customers, they tend to be more willing to buy from you at slightly more higher cost than what the internet can offer. just to help support you. But even if they don't buy parts from you, happily take their money for labor. Just charge appropriately that it's worth it. One of the advantages to keeping your costs super low is you don't have to rely on a ton of retail sales to make your rent. If you keep your costs super low, just labor dollars can be enough to support you, and you can do really well with just that. So be willing to adjust to the industry changing, because internet's not going away. These things, e-bikes aren't going away. We'll learn to make the most of it. Remember, this is a business. It's how you're feeding your family. This isn't meant to be a hobby for a lot of us. So I know this is no way a super comprehensive tutorial on how to start a business. I didn't go into setting up LLCs or specifics to setting up accounts or accounting. I don't want to do that because I'm not an expert in those areas, and also there's a ton of content on those things from other people that know a lot more than me. For me personally, I know a lot of you are wondering, where did the $1,000 come from? The $1,000 mark is just roughly what I had to put towards my business when I started this. I'm not going to give you a specific breakdown on how every dollar should be spent, because every market will be different. Every specialty will be a little bit different. What I did was, obviously, a fair bit of money went to the insurance, to the business licenses. I had polos made since I was working out of the back of my car. I wanted to at least look as professional as I could when I went up to the customers' doors. Then, since I was specializing in wheel building, I also bought a bunch of spokes to go along with that to kind of make building wheels a lot easier. Other parts I typically would special order as needed, other than a couple basic chains and brake pads and super common wear items, basically. So look at your market, evaluate it, see what your current selection of tools is. If you've got a great selection of personal tools already, great, that'll save you a lot of money. If you don't, then you'll obviously have to use some of this money to go out and buy your own tooling for the basic stuff at least. So that's what worked well for me. So hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, please click the like and subscribe button. It definitely helps my channel out, and it lets you know whenever I've got more content coming. We're definitely ramping up. Andy's getting on board with helping do a lot more videos. I think Daniel's going to help a bit. So we'll have a lot of good content coming out in the future, and obviously it helps the channel a lot to have a lot more subscribers. But yeah, if you found it helpful, please click those buttons. If you've got any questions, comments, concerns, leave them below and I'll do my best to answer them. But I hope this helped you out. It's nice to not have to worry about dealing with another boss and being able to have more control over your own success than relying on somebody else's trying to make you succeed. But yeah, hopefully that was helpful. If you've got any questions, leave them below and I'll do my best to answer. Thanks for watching.